If you're a gearhead, you want to make sure that the mechanicals are right. In today's car, the mechanicals aren't perfect. But you notice how nice today's car looks? Even a gearhead knows it's the way the car looks that really turns heads. Do you have any doubt whatsoever that today's featured car looks better now than it did when it was on the showroom floor? Do you have any doubt that it was a heck of a lot of work to make it like that? You have no idea of how much work. And if you do, I'm sorry.
Painting of the car, I wasn't really sure how I was going to proceed with it. I'd painted some cars myself and they turned out sort of okay, and I'd also had cars professionally painted and they turned out sort of okay. I worked with a wonderful person, Joe Salas, who was willing to mentor me and coach me along the way. He would come out to my house and tell me what I was doing correctly and what I was doing incorrectly and which products to use. And I'm a furniture builder by trade, and I began to realize that most of this work is no different than putting a beautiful piece of furniture together. To put the rubbing out process and so forth is really the same as it is on furniture. So the prep work is the thing that took me the longest. I spent hours and weeks and weeks, months and months really, doing the blocking and building the priming up. And I would think I had it perfect, and I would take it to Joe, and he would say, well, it looks pretty good, but you need to do this area totally over again. So I went ahead and painted the interior of the car, which really nobody even sees. That's all carpeted and upholstered over now. I painted the underneath side of the car by suspending it in my roof. I painted the trunk area of the car myself, and I painted the engine compartment of the car myself. And then I had Joe paint the exterior of the car and do the color sanding. And I think the result, between the two of us, especially with Joe's help, turned out fairly well. The windshield frame was a real challenge to me. It was really in bad condition, and I had a couple of others to choose from, and they were in equally bad condition. And as I went around and talked to people about this, they said, well, you need to get it anodized. And I said, great, but nobody around here does anodizing anymore because of the environmental restrictions. And people said, well, just polish it with wet and dry or polish it with steel wool. But I knew that if I did that, it would not last any length of time. It would just get tarnished and so forth. So I sort of took the law into my own hands, and I did use a succession of wet and dry sandpapers all the way down to around 1200 grit. And it looked beautiful, but I could tell it wasn't going to stay that way. So I had it clear powder coated, which was kind of my own solution to the thing, but then it was way too glossy. It just had way too much gloss on it. And again, I was a furniture builder by trade, and so what I did is I basically rubbed it out with a succession of woodworking products and got it down to the sheen that I wanted. And I think it turned out looking fairly original. The trunk of the car, again, I wanted to just maintain the originality. I've always been kind of fascinated with the English, the way they do things. They have their little straps that hold their top bows in place, and their little strap that holds the tonneau bar in place, and you open up the owner's manual and it shows where everything goes in place and exactly how it's supposed to be. And I wanted it to look like that. I know that there's other things that you can do to the trunk that make it more user-friendly perhaps, but I really like the idea, and I've actually argued with quite a few people about the straps. I had to go to quite a bit of trouble to find those straps, which actually turned out to be in the Moss catalog. They were there all along, but they were kind of in an odd place. So the straps are to hold a lot of the tools and accessories and such in position. The two cars that I got, one had the one that had the good body, the so-called good body, had the disc wheels, and the parts car ended up having the wire wheels. So it was a fairly simple matter of switching the drivetrains and the front ends over to accommodate the wire wheels on the car that I have today. You have your choice, I guess, of chrome wire wheels or painted wire wheels, and I've always liked the fact that they're painted. I think it's more original, and it's a lot easier to maintain. The interior of the car, which is, of course, the part that most of us see most often, I wanted to try to keep it as original as possible. I always, the two cars that we'd had previously were pretty much done like this. They had the black leather with the white piping and the black carpeting. And so we still wanted that look. I think that's the classic English sports car look. I really wanted to keep the interior as original as possible. And probably the thing that I think I'm the proudest of, which is almost sort of an accident or came out of frustration, is I kept trying to use the wrinkle spray paint on the dashboard, and the harder I tried, the worse it got. I think I probably went through 2 or 3 cases of that wrinkle coat spray paint trying to get a decent result. And I don't remember where or who told me, but somebody said you could get that powder coated in a wrinkle finish. And so I finally just stripped off my horrid looking coats of spray paint and took it to a powder coater, and they did the wrinkle finish on the dash and the glove box. And I really think that adds a great deal to the look of the car. While doing the interior, one of the things I wanted to look nice was the speaker grille material. And I had a number of them I was working with, and the harder I tried to clean them up, the worse they looked. And I bought a reproduction one, and it was really unsatisfactory. And I was getting quite frustrated because it's kind of a centerpiece of the car. And then I remembered an old woodworking trick, an old trick that people that restore furniture do. I simply turned the existing one that I had around backwards, and of course that had never seen the light of day, and it was absolutely in perfect condition, didn't have any shadows or anything. So I was pleased the way that turned out.
He was pleased with the way the car turned out. This is the same guy who takes a little pride in the engine compartment. When we come back, we're going to find out if Steve has won maybe a trophy or two with his bee. What do you think? You'd be right. And speaking of being right, we'll be right back. Right back.
This is my 1956 300 SL Gullwing, and it's been completely restored. Took the body off the frame. It took 3.5 years to do it, and it's now done, and I've been showing it for the last 2 years. They only made 1,400 of these in the whole world, and there's about 1,100 left in the world, about 800 of them in the United States, about 300 of them in California. I'm Gary Jarvis, and this is my 1956 300 SL Gullwing, and this is all about the car.